As we've just seen, drugs make your problems go away. So make it the best day possible. Remember, it's drugs that counts. Take one and take a chance.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Please welcome Max Headshrew, Del, Aria Blackness, and your most gracious host, Ben Motherfucking Jackson. Applause. Applause. Applause.
Applause. What's up, everybody? Can you hear me all right? I'm going to try this without my headphones because my hair looks really good today, and I don't want to ruin that.
I don't remember the last time your hair looked good, dude.
Does my hair look all right?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
It's less shiny than usual. It's just like...
I like how you've split us up between the hair on the left and the hairless on the right.
Is that a good setup?
I think so.
We should do this.
And mix it up a little bit. Well, now all the people that are bald are on the bottom. There's no way of doing this without me feeling upset about it.
There's two people with hair, and there's two people with jackets. So it's hard to...
Josh shaves his head, clearly. I can see the hair.
Nah, I mean, I get like you, man. That's all.
Man,
we do this?
Look at that. Look how high my hairline is. It's
well, then it's still hair people versus no hair people. We do this.
All right, so everybody, this is Josh. Go try to get better.
Nick, you need to get better internet. You need to buy like a cable to plugs in.
Oh,
because you're
cutting out a little bit, bro.
Cut out a little bit.
Anyway, Josh, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Josh, and I like to draw.
Ah, you're a fellow drawer person, are you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm Josh, and
all right. What do you draw, Josh? Comic books?
Well, I'm starting to get into it. It's one of the things I want to do as soon as I leave the military, and well, for the most part, it's just been part of me for a good while to just like follow in the footsteps of manga artists. I usually follow like works of people that would make, let's say, Berserk or Bleach or One Piece or just any type of anime that you would see now on TV, but only because of the downfall of the comic book industry as it is right now. Sure. I used to read comics as anyone would, but it just doesn't hit as much as it used to.
It's interesting, isn't it, how a lot of Western sort of early creators are sort of looking to the East for sort of artistic, creative enthusiasm now.
Yeah.
I like it because it ends up being something else once it's like fully formed in the artist. It's like a good mixture of the two. I do wonder how that's going to fully manifest in the end. Like all my stuff's because I'm British, obviously. Like my stuff's from like that European side. Like the manga stuff didn't really start coming in until I was in my late teens. There's a little bit of sort of Japanese work.
But British comics hit like real hard too, like The Boys. That was started off as a British comic, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose I'm talking about the British comics that were within Britain. I think when they're more sort of widespread, the style becomes closer to a house style. Although The Boys is probably an exception because there's a few different artists on that. We've got Aria back.
Hello, sorry I'm late, but I'm really glad you brought me on to talk about vampires.
we didn't start without you because we needed to have, well, we wanted to give the actual vampire among us.
You know, when you guys told me we'd be doing Twilight this week, I was kind of disappointed because I really don't like those movies. But I came prepared with some interesting facts. Did you know Robert Pattinson was apparently going to quit acting the day before he got the role as Edward?
Oh my God.
That was interesting. I think he should have done it, to be honest with you. What do we think?
Fuck Batman.
Still a
I'm
better
not sure.
Batman
Not sure how
than
to
Ben
answer.
Affleck.
Dude,
That's what I think.
Second question. What's Castlevania?
So it's kind of like Twilight. It's actually a great deal like Twilight. It has the two big things in common. It's all about vampires, and everybody's motivation is a sort of adolescent obsession with being in love and refusing to grow up. So in those two regards, the shows are very similar.
Yeah, I suppose they are. It's a great series. Surprised me how good it is. We were talking about this just before we came on the show, but it's produced by a guy called Adi Shankar. He did Dread, like the movie Dread from, I think it was back from 2017 or 18. Yeah, well, he produced it, and he produced The Grey as well, which I also think is a fucking great movie. But yeah, he's got this weird niche sort of business style. I like almost all the things that he's produced.
Is Dread the movie where
Carl
they're in
Urban.
the apartment complex and they get locked in and they're fighting Mama?
Yeah, not the one with Stallone with a fucking steel penis.
Oh, God, no. Please don't reference that.
That movie absolutely rocks. All right.
No, it doesn't.
You don't like that movie?
Nah, I fucking hate it.
Which one are we talking about?
If it's for a Dread film, it's shit. But if you're just talking about a campy action film, then
yeah.
No,
the visuals in it are quite good.
We're gonna have to debate this one on its own show because
He takes his helmet off. You're not supposed to ever take your helmet off if you're Dread.
Yeah, but then how would you know it's Stallone?
Yeah, good. That's a good point. Right?
I say it's about adding your own personality to it, if anything else. I mean, it's up to the actors to portray the character faithfully, but it's also up to them to add a little bit of their own flair to it. For example, every Spider-Man, there's always going to be a Spider-Man, but there's always going to be a different variation of them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Apparently, it was a tussle between him and Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time. Arnie almost got the part.
I did not know.
I'm pretty sure as a kid, I always assumed it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I was wrong.
Yeah, I always thought that, as a kid, that He-Man was played by Arnie. And then I think I was 13 when I realised it was Dolph Lundgren. I was like, who the fuck is this dude? A cut price Arnie.
I think what happened there, Max, is that you saw The Last Action Hero, and when he's all done up in that costume, he kind of looks like He-Man.
That's a surprise. That's quite a good film, mate.
The Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! I used to have the action figure where he shoots skulls out of his fist.
What? What are we on about now?
From The Last Action Hero, there was an action figure from The Last Action Hero of Arnold Schwarzenegger dressed like He-Man, and he shoots skulls out of his fist, out of his palm. Yeah, Nick knows what I'm talking about. You could put a skull into his hand and push a button, and it would shoot out of his fist.
Why did that happen?
Because it's a cool feature. It's got a spring in it.
Real popular on ladies' night.
I'm not. Oh, we need to do a video.
Anyway, Castlevania.
Yeah, Castlevania. I have a feeling that this conversation is going to be this conversation is going to revolve around questions of morality and appropriate attitudes and philosophies in the face of tragedy, because that sort of seems to be the inciting incident for every character and the motivating factor for everyone.
That's weird.
The vampire. Go on, Nick. Go on, Nick.
Oh, I thought this was like House Flipper, but for Castle. I must be in the wrong show.
Yeah, and I thought we'd be talking about sparkles today.
Aren't the vampire birds in it really horny?
Yeah, I was super into that.
One of them's massive.
None of them's green, so who cares?
Oh, yeah. I forgot you're into your green birds, aren't you?
I like the whole subplot where what's her name? Is her name Lenore or some bullshit? Where
The blonde one.
yeah, where she like ties up the kid and like keeps him as a slave.
Oh yeah, the fella that can, what they called the Forge Masters.
Yeah.
Forge
One that
Masters,
can
yeah.
make dead things alive again.
Hector. Yeah. I like to assume that she was like using him as a sex slave.
Oh, she was definitely using him as a pork slave, and I was into that part of the.
Me too,
series.
dude. Me too.
I still have trouble with cartoons that are like overtly sexual, like when they're talking about shagging and stuff on the show.
Well, does it make you upset, or does it?
It offends the like good Christian boy in me. And,
what about normal pornography? Does that offend you, or is it just animated pornography? What's going on? Why is Arya flying around?
I'm trying to
I'm a vampire.
the most aesthetically. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So it offended the good boy in you? What'd you tell him?
I don't know. It was just weird, right? It was like when we watched Cyber City and they started swearing straight away. I was like, oh, like I felt like my parents were going to kick down the door and tell me off.
Is it a juxtaposition between adult themes and a cartoon sort of aesthetic? Yeah.
It's like they didn't swear on Ben 10, so.
Do you ever wake up on a Saturday morning and you're watching cartoons and your parents are in the other room and then they start having sex and swearing and you feel really uncomfortable?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Watching Sonic Underground, that definitely happened.
Well, unfortunately for me, my parents fucking really loud was a very, very common occurrence. So I'd just be like, just turn it up a little.
I feel like I'm on your parents' side on that one. They've got to live their life, Nick.
I agree.
But here's the thing.
What, their life just stops because you're bored?
They were thinking, the kid's watching TV. We'll just leave him.
Yeah.
I can hear the X-Men music. Get on the bed.
Yeah, he turns it up louder, so they're going, okay, give me a little.
Dad comes out pumped up on adrenaline. He's like, all right, son, let's go out for more applause.
They got to finish before the theme tune ends. Well, it's yeah.
I'd be like, Dad,
Magneto does that, and all that shit comes out his hand. I want to be done.
Be like, Dad, you okay? You covered in sweat. No, that's a shower. I just got out.
Yeah. I just really, really like the beginning sequence of X-Men, son.
Yeah, I really like the beginning sequence.
Makes me sweat.
Gets me excited.
Me and your mom were doing Pilates while you watch the X-Men's.
Yeah, my parents traumatized me at a young age. I had no illusion.
Nah, mate, it is traumatizing, and at the same time, it is quite funny as well.
I don't know. It never bothered me. I always knew that my parents had sex. Like, I'm aware on a certain level that that's why I even exist. So, like, I can't get mad about it. You know.
Fair dues. Ben's picking it apart.
I went and visited my parents in Texas not too long ago. My dad's got this really nice 3 Series BMW. Like, you want to take the BMW out for a drive? And I'm like, nah, man, it's cool. I'm playing. Like,
take the BMW.
Like, you want to take the BMW out for a drive?
Yeah. Like, Nick, take the goddamn BMW out.
Make sure you're gone for at least an hour. Do you understand?
I'll see you in 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Aria, I'm assuming you're the most recent one to watch Castlevania. What the show is supposed to be about. What did you think?
So I watched Castlevania.
Out the driveway, and he just hears the X-Men theme music from inside.
Just one tear. Just one tear comes out his eyes. He's reversing off the drive.
So something that. All right. So question: Dracula, right? Yeah. His wife gets murdered, so he decides he's gonna destroy the entire human race.
Yeah.
Is that a
Nice.
badass power play, or are you an emo bitch that needs to just get over it and
I think,
marry
like,
somebody else?
Like emo is pretty inherent in cartoons about gothic vampirism and a castle that moves around everywhere. Do you know what I mean? You got to kind of let that go, because as soon as Alucard comes into it, it's like he is the embodiment of like full emo, isn't he? Like his son. He's like always
anime
sad.
pretty boy.
Yeah.
The way I think about it is that, yeah, it's a bold plan to show vampiric dominance. I think a lot of vampires were thinking that as you watched more of the series. However, during the whole process, you would notice that there are like deviant, like different factions that have like different plans for the human race. So Alucard was more of a vessel for just war and carnage. But to agree on the second point, I would definitely say he just needs to grieve. He just needs time to understand that, like, that whole process is just to understand that his wife is gone.
What you're saying is that this therapy.
Yeah, a lot of characters like that do.
But then he wouldn't be a villain. Then he'd just be a normal, adjusted, emotionally mature human being.
Ben, have you been to therapy? Do you know how easy it is?
He's supposed to be a sympathetic villain, though, and
he's supposed to be. I just think he's a bitch.
Sympathetic villain. Yeah, you can understand him, but you have to understand that he's still a batshit insane person. He still wants to kill humanity.
Yeah, and I think the other thing was like it's not just his reaction to his wife's death. Like the removal of her from his life changes his behavior, because her coming into his life in the first place kind of stopped him from being a psychopath, didn't it? So the grief plus not having her around makes him react in this way, which is why everybody says to him it's not what she would have wanted. They keep sort of saying that to him, don't they?
Yeah,
which is true, because if you've got a good missus, she'll stop you from being fucking crazy. Like,
that's true.
You're inherently crazy as a bloke, especially if you're full of testosterone. Like your missus usually should calm you down.
That's actually true, because Max is married and he has never attempted to annihilate the human race.
Well done, Max. True. You deserve a medal for that.
Not one
Could
time.
Could easily do it, mate, as well.
Annihilate. Oh, on the other hand, I consider annihilating the human race on a regular basis.
And you're not married, so there you go.
I do have a girlfriend, though. Don't tell her I said that.
But that's a good point, Max, because because you kind of get the sense. I think there's some subtext that implies that if it weren't for Lisa at all, he would have been like a really dangerous, evil power, creating a lot of destruction.
He's supposed to be like the personification of like masculinity and like being able to just destroy you, and she's the opposite, isn't she? She's the nurturer, and then she gets killed for that.
Be a doctor. She's a hero.
Yeah,
right? So.
She wants to look after the human race. So
someone's been listening to Jordan Peterson lectures.
Oh yeah, I love a bit of Peterson.
So Dracula is like the ultimate embodiment of the masculine ideal, and the feminine keeps him at bay, and you have to have both. It's not enough.
It's like if Dracula just ate lots of steak, he'd be okay.
And that's the real magic of it all.
What if you play that ideal out to its ultimate conclusion?
Get my new book, 12
He wants to eliminate the entire human race. And it's no wonder
to avoid vampirism.
Those are shockingly good impressions.
Well, you just do an impression of Kermit the Frog, didn't you?
You just imagine Kermit the Frog, but he's like having an existential crisis and read way too much Carl Jung and Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Unlike Peterson, though, I'd say that in this version, it's the masculine that's the chaos. It's Dracula that's the chaos. and it's his missus is the Order, and because she wants to look after the human race, and he, his baseline is to destroy it. So she orders his life.
I don't know about that because I think that Carmella is more of the chaotic feminine energy.
She is. That's definitely.
I mean, just between those two, not in the whole thing. I mean, just in their relationship.
There. Like just in that relationship, I think the chaos role is reversed. Yeah. But then take the two bad guys, then the Lady Vampire and Dracula. Lady Vampire is chaos in that dynamic.
When you change groups, isn't there like something like 4 or 5? Yeah, Katie really likes Dracula.
I thought she was
really like Dracula. I thought this was
definitely not talking about me, mate.
I thought this was one of the coolest depictions of Dracula I've ever seen, especially in episode 1 where he's that big head in the sky.
I feel like by the time you hit your late 30s, Aria, you're going to look a lot like him.
I'll need an overcoat or something.
That's it.
I need a cape.
Yeah. Stop busting people up, man.
I'm not tall enough. He's really tall.
Just get some stilts or some big.
I'll be mini Dracula.
Let's have a look at that depiction of Dracula as the big fiery head, because that is really cool.
Yeah.
Your God knows that we.
Wrong one.
What have you done, Satan? What have you done to my wife? In nomine Patris et Filii. I am Vlad Dracula Tadesh. You will tell me why this thing has happened to my wife. Oh no! Oh God! Dracula! He was supposed to be myth. A story made up by heretics. She's a witch.
Listen, Tadesh was a woman of the sciences, and the one thing that justified humanity's stench upon this planet.
Wicked.
Yeah.
I love that. That's like a crazy cool power upgrade for Dracula.
Yeah.
You don't see that anywhere else, really. I thought it was just
a meeting.
A good take.
I like it a lot because, like, you think about science fiction and Star Wars has like those blue, glowy, like 3D
holograms
holograms.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a magic. It's kind of like a fantasy magic genre equivalent.
Yeah.
Is he force projecting?
Yeah, I used to have a bit of an issue with that in Star Wars because when Vader would talk to the Emperor, and the Emperor's like giant, like overbearing head would appear.
Yeah,
and you'd be like, "Oh, he's scary." And then later on, I think it's in Empire. Somebody gets like a call from Darth Vader, and like Darth Vader's about this big, and he's on the dashboard of the vehicle he's driving, and he looks so like tiny and cute, and he's got like his hands on his hips. Like I couldn't take him seriously because he just looks like a little baby Darth Vader. Do you know what I mean? It's so unimposing. If he was telling me off, I'd just be like, "Oh, all right, no worries." Bye.
Yeah,
and then just switch him off.
That's funny as shit. I can't believe no Star Wars parody has ever like played on that.
Yeah, he's about that fucking. You know what I mean? At least have him on a screen like this big. He's so like the opposite of scary.
Do you think that Palpatine did it on purpose? He's like, all I made.
yeah, just to sort of consistently undermine him all the time. I'm the best. Like Palpatine's using like the PlayStation 5 version of that shit, and then like he's only giving Vader like the Mega Drive version.
Yeah.
Vader's like,
you underestimate my power.
Vader's like, I know we've got a better version of this. No, that's all we've got.
I think there's a lot of parallels actually between you see, Vlad Tempest and Anakin Skywalker, you're both manifestations of the emo bitch boy archetype.
They're both the fucking same, man.
They're the same.
There used to be a software app online that perfectly reproduced Peterson's voice, and you could type in anything, and he would say it, and he got it cut down.
Yeah, that was a job that I used to have. I would be on call for
You
shifts.
could just ask Ben.
It was me and two other guys, and we would do shifts. And then if anyone would go on the website, we would just record what they said.
Yeah. And if you need a Kermit the Frog, you ask Max. But Kermit the Frog's never been on the Joe Rogan podcast, so who cares?
Yeah, fuck him.
Oh, great. I guess.
How many series of Vania is there? Is there 3?
4 seasons.
4. Fuck.
How
4
far did you get?
seasons, and
Should I spoil it?
go on.
Yeah, I've seen them all.
Okay. Arya, did you watch the whole thing?
I haven't seen the whole thing. I've missed a few episodes, but I'll be honest with you guys. I found it kind of boring.
Really?
I really enjoy. There are episodes in it that I really enjoy, particularly episode 1. But I found it to be a lot of waiting for the next thing to happen, and then waiting, and then waiting. And a good example of that is like the library scene, where they find the big library full of magic books and stuff. And it takes them a couple of episodes before the monsters are invading. They're sort of looking for books and looking for books and looking for books. And I really wish that was just one scene or one episode. It just.
I feel like Arya, you prefer fast-moving stories, right?
Not always. I mean, like I love things like Breaking Bad, which are like really stretched out.
Oh fucking hell, that's got loads of filler in it.
Yeah. But this, it's like I'm not a huge anime fan for a start. Okay, and then you're gonna stretch out episodes of scenes like the library and all that, and I didn't enjoy that. But what I did really enjoy was the crazy cool battles. I really enjoyed the way they adapted characters like
I told you if you wanted, just fast forward to the fight scenes.
Yeah. You were right. They were really cool. The demons were really cool to watch. They were all like really unique designs. And I thought the dynamic of the trio, like the vampire son, the vampire hunter, and then the magic girl was a good group dynamic. I enjoyed that.
I like them at first. I think later on, I towards the end as well. Who's the forger, the one that starts to build the army? What's his name?
Isaac and I was about to say it's Isaac and Hector, right?
Don't ask me for names.
The one that's building the army and then starts to like teach the things that he's created.
That's Isaac.
How to do other things. Like
Yeah.
I really,
Yeah,
started to get into that storyline. It was getting into the philosophical side of it, wasn't it? Of what it means to be sort of human and to sort
That's sort of a common theme in vampire stories, like trans vampirism. Like when you're immortal for so long that you start to play with the idea of going back to being mortal again.
Yeah.
And I know that night creatures aren't vampires, but they have in common like the same destructive nature and like the undead aspect, because vampires are sort of like undead, I feel like. And so like Isaac training these monsters and teaching them to eat fruit and to like have emotions and stuff like that, it's kind of like undoing the curse. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know what it is about that sort of delving into narrative. I really enjoy that sort of thing. I liked it that he was saying that he sort of had feelings that he had memories of this other life, but he knows it's not really his life because now he's something else.
I like that too, and I have some thoughts on that, because I think the idea of the monsters as intriguing is because as normal motherfuckers, the idea of a monster, it kind of is like awesome to us, and I mean awesome in the sense that like it inspires wonder and amazement, because we're like, wow, what if there are these creatures that were made out of animals that were super dangerous and super destructive, and what if all they were interested in was killing? But then I think there's another level above that that's even more awesome, and that's even awesome to them. Because at a certain point, when you delve into these dark thoughts, you eventually realize that it kind of leaves you empty and it kind of leaves you cold. And that really actually being alive and loving and enjoying things, that's even more awesome than being a badass.
Yeah. But you have to go, it seems you have to go through both to figure out the former, right?
You do, yeah.
Yeah. And that's it's sort of an allegory for getting older, I think. I feel like when you're a kid, you sort of enjoy the little things in life. And then you go through like a transitional phase through your youth. And as you get a little older, where you start to think perhaps bigger things are important or certain ambitions are more important. Then when you pass another gate, when you get past middle age, you start to realize, oh, I sort of had it right the first time when I was a kid, that the little thing, the trivial things, or the things that have become trivial really aren't. They're the things that are more important now.
Yeah. Little things like Keshi Taylor, they're the things that are important.
Exactly.
On Indiegogo right now.
Tiny little plastic figures, they're the most important things in life. Moving beyond the material is what I'm saying, Aria.
I think you got it. I think you got it, Max. I think you analyzed the show.
He did.
Thematically and came to the right conclusion.
Is that a wrap then?
Right, off ski. See you later, lads. Actually, I am just popping to the toilet. I'll be but a moment.
What?
All right.
Damn.
Max gets a gold star. Max gets an A on his report.
Oh,
Good job, Max.
well, this is just cool where I definitely didn't read any material and I just showed up in class.
Yeah, Nick didn't do his homework, but that's okay.
He did his homework, I think. Wait, didn't you? I thought you did.
See? Oh, I didn't. I've even seen a single episode of it.
God damn it.
Aria's the class clown showing up talking about, oh, teacher, I thought we were supposed to watch Twilight. My mistake.
Oh my gosh.
I did genuinely come prepared with Twilight facts though. Like Isabella and Jacob were the most popular baby names in the US in 2010.
I'm just a new student. I'm just a new guy.
I don't know. I will say though that the early anime Vampire Hunter D.
Oh God, yes, dude. That's why I fucking love the animation studio that worked on Vampire Hunter D is like top notch. I forgot which studio it was called, but I recognize their work in Midnight City, and that movie right there was like they feature a lot of gore and sex and like what they do, but in the terms of things,
is Castlevania an anime?
It's technically an American produced anime. It's not truly anime. Anime is like animation that's produced in the studios of Japan, not necessarily in anywhere else. But they can be like close to anime if like all the requirements are met or prerequisites are met. Like, for example, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's not necessarily a anime, so to speak, but people that in the anime community respect the fuck out of it because of what it touches on. And you got to admit, like, that show in itself is fucking amazing.
So to be called a Western-produced anime, or whatever the terminology you used was, is that to do with the art style and iconographically how it looks, or what?
That's part of it.
Yeah. Like, for example, what makes anime is the fact that they would produce high-budget quality animation, but like high-quality animation on a finite budget. So everything, so to speak, would like you would say in, let's say, Dragon Ball Z, there will be a lot of staying around and talking, but most of the animation goes towards like fucking fighting, for example. And you would see that they would reuse keyframes so they could be able to like rehearse everything over and over again in a certain loop.
That definitely applies to this show, I think. It seems to me that they put the most effort into the fighting scenes, which was the right move.
There were a
soft
lot of
animation.
walking scenes in this show where I noticed like the characters would sort of float and their legs would move out of rhythm with the walking. So,
Oh yeah,
but then the fighting scenes were super slick, like crazy camera angles and all that. So yeah, I think you're right. on that.
As the
like
series,
season 3, I think, with the I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just trying
it's
to.
okay. No. Carry on. You carry on. It's fine.
All right, so from like I think it was season 3. I think it was like that big lady, muscular looking chick. She was fighting. That was like all hand drawn right there. That shit was so fluid. Sakuga
Yeah.
animation at its fucking finest. Just hand drawn animation. I just fucking love it.
Excellent scene. Really cool scene. And I think as well, like you notice more of those scenes as the series progresses, because I think that they got the first series is probably the lowest budget of all 4 of them, so the animations definitely picks up throughout the series.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So another thing I jumping off point for conversation, I think, could be the notion of, spoiler alert, the only way that they can actually defeat Dracula is because he kind of gives up. I don't know what to make of that, because on the one hand, I appreciate that he is OP and he can actually beat them all, and there's something to be said for that kind of making sense as far as verisimilitude, because there's this repeating motif in fiction of the big bad being invincible, but the good guy always beats him anyways. And I'm sort of tired of seeing that. So on the one hand, it's kind of a relief to have a different conclusion. But at the same time, another part of me says that that's like a chicken shit cop-out. Like, oh, Dracula just suicides himself, and that's how he died. I don't know.
How
What
do
do you guys think
how
of
do
that?
how do you solve the problem of needing an antagonist that's like super physically imposing without sort of hitting that trope though? It's a difficult one, isn't it? They sort of tried to do it with Thanos, didn't they? They made him sympathetic as well, and then at the end of Infinity War, he sort of goes off and lives on a fucking space farm somewhere. But even then, and then at the beginning of the next one, Thor takes his head off and he just lets him do it. But
somebody's got an echo. That might be necessary to put headphones in.
I think that's mine. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. My bad.
No worries, bro.
Great point.
You reminded
Great
me
point,
of
Matt.
something.
Go ahead.
Ben, you reminded me of something I was thinking while watching, is that the power levels of the various characters seemed like way off to me. Like how the vampires are running through the streets in one scene, shredding humans to pieces, but then Belmont, who is, aside from being from a family of vampire hunters, is a normal human, right?
Yeah.
And he can like go blow to blow with Dracula. And then also there's a scene where some of the other vampires imply that because Dracula hasn't been drinking blood recently, he's weak, and yet he's clearly way more powerful than all of the ones that are still drinking blood. So it just seemed as though there was, like Belmont.
She likes purple skinned men the way Arya likes green skinned women.
She likes big bald blokes. That's what she likes.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's the chin.
Testosterone thing.
Yeah, and with a scrotum chin.
Yeah.
The power levels are a bit off, and like when they sort of say that they're weak, and then the animate that cool animation that you're on about that shows them like just fucking blowing holes in different creatures sort of doesn't sort of juxtapose with what they've said about their own power levels, but. Yeah, it's a cartoon. And
I mean, it's not a deal breaker. It's just like that could have been a way around defeating, the big bad Dracula, is that he was weak because he hasn't drunk blood or anything.
How do they fight the fight? They're fighting like 3-on-1 the first time, don't they?
Yeah, so and Dracula just picks them apart one by one, but then he ends up having a meltdown in his child's bedroom. You remember that one?
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I'm not sure how I would have done it better, to be honest. But the scene was sort of flat for me. It didn't really work.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere in the fight. It was you know, they were fighting like brutally, and then suddenly he was having a meltdown in the bedroom. I thought it was a bit quick.
Ben, put the link, the StreamYard link in the chat.
Okay.
And then people can.
Let's take a look at that fight scene because I want to make a point, but I think it's gonna land better after this.
You must be the Belmont. The end of your line.
So where I thought this was going was that they were going to have to learn how to fight together as a team in order to beat him. Because every time that they would start to have some measure of success, it was by piling on and finding really creative ways to combine their attacks and to combine their powers. And I think that would have been, even though that would have sort of been a cliche, I don't know. I think it's a cliche for a reason. I think it would have been really satisfying to see that collaboration between them sort of pay off. Whereas,
yeah, I think that's right. If they'd written the scene where maybe they were losing at first, but then they attack him together, that would have been a lot better.
I'm gonna put my headphones on because there seems to be some kind of echo, and it might be me.
No, I think it's me.
I'm trying to type stuff in the chat, and I'm a TARDIS.
So yeah, I mean, I think the idea was to subvert our expectations with that whole thing, but I think it just detracts from all of their efforts, to be honest, because Sypha, Alucard, and Trevor are teaming up, using their powers, learning to work together, and the fight scenes are amazing. And I feel like a lot of that build-up and a lot of that story and even the choreography of the fight itself, which was brilliant and beautiful, I think it detracts in a big way from all of that effort to have him just kind of give up at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose it does. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I suppose they sort of did that in. I know I keep coming back to it, but I think it's a relevant sort of comparison. Is that it's the same sort of thing they did in Avengers. Really, they all keep teaming up against Thanos, and then it never really works, does it? Which surprised me because there's in the original books for Infinity War, they already know that they can't beat him. There's no way they can beat him. So when they have like this giant brawl with him, it's all a distraction for something else to happen when he isn't looking. And I think it's like, isn't it the Silver Surfer's flying as fast as he can from light years away to grab the gauntlet off him while he's distracted fighting all these other Avengers, and then he snatches it off him, and they have to like figure out exactly the point that he's got to be. Yeah, and I can't believe they didn't use that in the film. Like,
it's because they didn't have the Silver. You could play the Silver Surfer, Max.
I could play the Silver Surfer, couldn't I? The pink brummy surfer. It's just me with no effects, naked on a surfboard in space. Who the fuck is this guy?
Just like wear a flesh-colored Speedo and get like a flesh-colored surfboard. You know,
the flesh surfer,
the flashy brummy.
I got it.
So yeah, and I think there's big parallels there between the Dracula and Thanos as well. Great point. Good observation.
He's just unstoppable, isn't he? But yeah, I never thought about that. Him giving up kind of negates the point of them teaming up and figuring out how to work together.
Right. Because they're not only do their personalities have to mesh, but also their different abilities. Because see, that's one of my favorite aspects of the show was introducing those characters. Because like I think it was the third game in the Nintendo series.
Yeah.
Had those characters, right? And you could kind of, I don't remember exactly. I should have researched this better. I don't know if it was a secondary character that you don't control or if you toggle and play as them. Does anyone remember?
I didn't play the games. But
are you on about Symphony of the Night?
No, way before that, Max. The Nintendo, like for not even Super Nintendo, but Nintendo Castlevania game series. There were 3 games.
I remember Vania, and then Simon's Quest. Was that the second one?
Simon's Quest was the second one, and then the third one.
I don't remember the third one.
But that was the one where Alucard and Sypha were characters.
Right.
And there was another one who was a pirate, who was kind of like a hunchback pirate.
I thought Alucard came into it in Symphony of the Night.
No, Alucard was first in that game. Man, Nintendo Castlevania. I don't know. I'll look. They're
fucking good game, man. They're simple, man. But that first game was there's like a rehash. There was issues with the second one because it was more of like an RPG, wasn't it? But like that first game is good, man. It's like simple, but it's really good.
That was the first video game I ever played was Castlevania 1.
Good one to start off with.
Yeah, I remember my dad bought me and my brother a Nintendo used. And it had 2 games, yeah? It had Super Mario and Castlevania. And I was obviously obsessed with Castlevania.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so like those characters were introduced in the old games. And the whole point of it, like the gameplay was combining Trevor. I don't know if you play as Trevor or Simon, actually. I think Trevor. But combining Trevor with Sypha or combining Trevor with Alucard to use the powers, to team up with their abilities,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that was an aspect they should have brought to the TV show more so.
Well, they did, I think the scene that we just saw was inspired by that.
Yeah, but it should have been more significant. It should have played a role in defeating Dracula at least.
I agree.
Thank you.
I think we all feel the same way about that. So that was a mistake, I think, to do that. How did you guys feel about Carmilla, the female vampiress, empress?
Green skin, but
I agree. Green skin would have been better.
I liked her nails. I liked all the vampires' nails. I thought that was cool, and the fact that they were like Wolverine claws or whatever.
I was into that. Her and that little cute one that takes that dude as like the sex slave. I know we've gone over this already.
Yeah,
Max is.
But I was proper into both of them.
Me too. I was proper into her. I think it'd be really sexy to like be like chained up and like used as a sex slave. Like I think
Katie rigorously really taking notes.
Hail Frog.
No, release me.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean I'm free to go? No, one more.
I can't go. I've hurt my ankle.
Well, there's something really kinky about that concept. Because you don't have control of your erections. So, and you don't really have control of your ejaculations either. So there's this will thing at play for men when we have sex, because on the one hand, no, Nick, this is my show, and I want to talk about.
No, I agree with you. What I'm saying is, there's a whole section on Pornhub. It's called Femdom, baby.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about, and I think femdom's popular for that reason. I think femdom is popular for that reason. You know.
Oh yeah.
Well, we'll post some links in the chat for anyone who's curious.
Oh dear.
So for what was her name? I just said it like a moment ago. No, the one that ties up the dude. She was the blonde one. She was the sexiest character for that reason. I didn't like the lesbian vampires, and it's not because I don't like lesbians, but it's just it was weird because like one of them was like impossibly big, you know.
Yeah,
like there's no 8-foot tall people.
Although, yeah, but we're in a world where like monsters exist.
Dracula was 8 foot tall.
All right, but there's no 8-foot tall women. Oh no, there is.
She's a vampire woman. She can be 8 foot tall.
Yeah, but I feel
like
she
happens to be 8 foot tall and a lesbian.
Yeah, I mean, in this world of fantasy, why are you limiting yourself to normal human?
Yeah. Big dragon men, that's all right. Like weird ant people, that's all right. 8 foot tall Dracula, that's all right. 7 foot tall Dracula woman, no.
That's where I draw the line.
No, they end at 5'6". No more.
That last bit's ridiculous. All the other shit's all right. All that before, that's okay, but that last bit, that's stupid.
Well, you can say it ironically if you want.
Totally unbelievable. Show's ruined.
Well, I wasn't that keen on it at first, but when I really like that scene where she just rips through everybody, so she earned my favor in that. I thought that was a really cool scene.
I like that she.
Oh, Ben's turned into a transformer. He went to say like something about her, and then he just deleted himself.
I think his vampire dom cut his internet access off.
There he goes.
There you back now.
Am I back?
Yeah.
I like that she had day armor, so that she could go out during the daytime and not die.
I always sympathise with people that are like doing the vampire thing in their creations, because it's such a popular genre, and it's a genre that's been done so many times. Like you've really got to be forced to sort of. I feel like if you want to do something with that, you've really got to sort of rack your brain to try and do something different, especially when you're dealing with something like Castlevania. That's like it's set from an era where people weren't doing that shit all the time, so it's got all the usual shit that you'd see, but they've got to try and do new stuff with it. Does that make sense? Yes. So when you do, if you're doing something else new now, I don't know what to do with a vampire to try and make it. We've had them horrible. We've had them like.
I've got a really good idea.
And then they've brought them back to be horrible again, and then it's like I feel like I've seen a lot. You know, you've seen a lot of vampire stuff if you're into your movies and shit.
I've got a great idea for a vampire fight scene that we might use in Rokon.
Cool.
So like I'm proper into the day armor concept of this sort of night creature that can't go out in daylight, but it wears armor to protect itself. So I think it'd be really cool if there was this invincible, like Dracula style big bad, and the way that Rokon and company beat him is by Calisorn prying his armor open, like not even killing him, not even destroying the armor,
just to expose him,
exposing him, and then the sunlight getting him. I think we could do a lot with that.
That's really cool,
especially since Zorn is a scorpion guy, so he could have.
Yeah, he's the badass strong dude, isn't he? Right. Did you guys ever play the Soul Reaver games?
Yes,
the Legacy of Kain games. When I watched this, I was just like, I just want to see a Legacy of Kain animated series now.
That would be awesome.
The story in that it's brilliant. It's so cool. You ever heard of it, Aria?
I never played video games. I had a spinning top and a rocking horse, and
My parents don't let me play video games. I don't like sex scenes.
You,
Mate,
shut up!
listen
I was
to
playing
you.
with He-Mans. That's what I was doing.
That's true. You were playing with He-Mans. Yeah, that's.
Do you remember that, Nick?
Which one?
Soul
The Soul Reaver games? Yeah, I remember. I didn't play them too in depth, but I remember them.
Oh,
Yeah, I like them. I think they were like some of the best games around at the time.
the best like voice acting, absolutely brilliant, especially for the
What do you
time.
mean? What the fuck? I just didn't buy a PlayStation. It's not unthinkable.
Mate, I think what was good about those games is like it's set over a period of like a millennia, and you follow two separate characters that are completely ideologically opposed. So there's two games on each, and then the final game you play half the game as one, half the game as the other, and then it all sort of culminates at the end. But there's a lot of time travel and destiny talk, and it blew my fucking mind when I was a teenager. Like
I like that game because he's got a scarf.
Yeah, and he's got a scarf. Yeah, I incidentally I did use Raziel as a reference when I was coming up with the Roken character. He does look a
That
bit
makes
like,
sense. Yeah. And I hadn't thought of it before. When I first saw the kind of neck cover, I thought of the Shadow. But yeah, there's definitely some of that. What's his name? Raziel.
Raziel, yeah.
He's got like dumb name by the way. It's like
I like Raziel.
It's like
Raziel
a Sith name or something.
It is, yeah. Raziel.
It sounds very biblical, right? Like
Darth Razzie.
It is biblical. When you get into like the story, so
yeah.
Raziel's biblical. Cain is obviously biblical. That's the other character. Like it's such a bizarre story. Like Cain makes his own vampires to become the heads of his army, and then later on you find out that they were made from the corpses of a group of people that were vampire hunters, and then Raziel goes back through time and meets himself as a vampire hunter, and then he tries to kill himself.
It's a crazy fucking story. I really appreciate you incorporating Cain into that kind of mythology because he's the first murderer.
Yeah, he's the first vampire.
The first person to ever take a human life. So there's something really okay. So we should talk about religious and biblical motifs as they appear in Castlevania. Take a look at this scene because this might surprise you that this is my favorite scene from all of Castlevania, and the fact that I'm a Christian might surprise you. I
did wonder how you'd feel about that. All that.
Well, I'll let you know my take in 1 sec.
Your God knows that we wouldn't be here without you. This is all your fault, isn't it?
She was a witch.
Lies in your house of God? No wonder he has abandoned you. But we love you. We love you. We couldn't be here without you. Let me kiss you.
That's my favorite scene in Castlevania.
That
makes you feel dirty, right, Ben?
No, here's the thing. Like, oh, Josh is back. Okay, so somebody that I really follow and admire is this writer called Seraphim Rose, and basically what he says is that Antichrist is within the church, not out without the church, and so what that means is like the real enemy of proper Christianity and the people that are really pissing God off the most are false Christians, hypocritical Christians, and corrupt Christians.
Right.
And so this, go ahead.
Nice allegory for some politics, really, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, I tend to think that if you're on, without specifying any sides, if you're on a certain side of the political horseshoe, and people on your side are being misrepresented of what your fundamental tenets are, it pisses you off because they make you feel like they make you look bad. Like,
yeah,
probably more than the opposite side, because they're inadvertently sabotaging what you believe, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And I think they're more dangerous because I think it's because of these, like, and I think the Catholic Church has a lot of really big examples of corruption, you know, molesting kids and then covering up for it. That's kind of a big deal in my opinion.
Yeah, just a
I don't
bit.
know. Just a little bit, right? And so that honestly pisses me off more than anybody outside of Christianity,
Yeah, because it's people taking advantage of your specific ideology and fucking it up.
And also, they're kind of making us all look bad. But more than making us look bad, they're responsible for turning a lot of people off Christianity, and I don't blame those people at all. Because like I can't count how many people have told me like I can't even consider Christianity for 1 second because of all the evil that Christians do, and all I can say is, yeah, good point. Like,
it's a more encompassing thing in everything, there, isn't it? Get a group together that's big enough, and you get people that poison it from the inside. They either don't understand what it is that they're getting into, or they fully understand and they want to, use it as an excuse to do other shit.
Yeah, it's in every single group of people where there is a hierarchy.
Yeah,
it becomes infinitely easier for corruption to begin. You see this like in the church. You see this in like a lot of traditional martial arts schools and stuff like that, right? And where was I going with this? I just
corruption, enough people.
Yeah. And where was I going with this? I had a good point to make. Move on.
And the point is, you don't
No.
like sex in cartoons.
So, did you know the original sex scene in Breaking Dawn Part 1 in the film an R rating and apparently showed a lot of Pattinson's butt crack?
Really?
That wasn't the point I was going to make, but I needed to fill dead it. So there we go.
Did you know that you can show tits in PG-13 movies as long as the scene isn't sexual?
No, I didn't know that.
That's why Titanic is only PG-13.
Yeah, there is tits. There's
tits in there. Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Winslet tits.
Tit Winslow.
Kate
Winslet.
Kate Winslet.
Kate Wins tit.
Kate Wins tits.
That film, man.
I've completely forgot the point I was going to make, but it was going to be something along the lines of...
Well, I think you were saying that once an organization is big enough, there's always going to be corruption or something like that.
Yeah. But then at the same time, these the cardinals or whatever they are in the show, those are, not the followers of Jesus Christ themselves. They're not the disciples or anything. They also weren't anyone who was around during the times of Jesus Christ. So... so the wider point I was going to make is those Christians are not Christianity,
Right?
No, I suppose not.
Exactly. And as a Christian, that's the way I feel about it. And I see them. I'm more antagonistic towards them than I am an unbeliever.
Yeah. Well, the Bible's the word of God, right? So they're the filter.
No, Jesus is the word of God.
Yeah. But they're the filter to which. Their masses would receive the word of God. Right.
And so they're doing a poor job of communicating that information to people. And they're guilty.
I really enjoy seeing depictions of like Catholicism like this.
Me too.
Because it's like it's gothy, right? It's
yeah.
I like that.
The aesthetic of the church, sort of filtered into fantasy. Almost always, there's something about it that's very appealing.
Yeah,
there's like a really appealing gothic aesthetic to it.
I want to hear
people sort of keep running back to it.
I want to hear from Nick because he's a really spooky guy, and I know he's into all that kind of symbolism and stuff like that. So, Nick, how do you feel about that? What's your attitude towards Christianity or Christian symbolism and the aesthetic.
Man. Do you really want to get
like, because I know that you're not a believer.
That's true.
But I also see you wearing these Leviathan Artworks T-shirts and stuff like that. And so there's something, in my opinion, that like the more that people show inverted crosses and all this stuff, the more it speaks to a deeper understanding that Christianity really is great. Because like all of this anti-Christian symbolism and aesthetic, you wouldn't bother being anti something unless you knew deep down. Well, anyways, I don't want to give you my point.
I don't know though if the problem with those sorts of aesthetics is that they develop over time. So I don't necessarily think wearing a t-shirt with an inverted cross on, like,
well,
it could be more than it's just an aesthetic thing now. It's become its own genre of aesthetic as opposed to.
Let me show you a blending of aesthetic.
Anti-Christian, do you know what I mean?
I've got my Christian cross on with my Pretty Boy Floyd shirt with a bloody
yeah. But that's not like.
But that's
like
it.
Go on.
I think that's what Max is saying. Like, there's this combination of symbolism, and maybe it's not to do with Christianity the way it's being applied, because that looks good, you know. Arya's got his medal. Arya's always wearing his t-shirts, you know, Kiss or whatever, and then he's got a cross on too, and it looks really good together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I do.
Arya
Nick.
looks nice.
Arya looks good.
We can do this segment every week.
I do. Arya shows off his hair and his outfit.
Arya, you need a little fan like right here. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
The Steve Vai look.
I do want to
we need some budget for this show.
Right. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, I told my dad. So my parents get really upset about it because I've been wearing like anti-Christian, or for me, it's not necessarily anti-Christian. It's more anti-organized religion. But I'm not a believer in the religion itself, right? So their point is always like, well, if you don't believe in it, why do you wear satanic imagery? Well, I'll tell you, because it's the only way for me to communicate to people my rebellion against the establishment of the religion. It's not that I necessarily think or support of satanic ideals or anything like that, which I think is similar to what they're doing in the show. Is like, you can't, like, we wouldn't exist without you. I wouldn't wear dark satanic imagery if the Christian church weren't established, right? Because it wouldn't make any fucking sense.
So if you lived in like a Muslim-dominant society, would you wear like anti-Muslim?
Yeah, of course.
Iconography?
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
For me, it's rebellion, right? Or it's my way of communicating that I don't approve of the status quo.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you don't. I think over here in England, we don't have that sort of all-encompassing religious culture. So, like, most people aren't religious in England. There's a very small subset of people that consider themselves Christians. So, I think from our point of view, we see it from the outside. I don't think a lot of Brits sort of realise how religious America is. Like, if I told my parents, and we've had various discussions about it, I'm not religious, they'd just be like, "Oh, fair enough, it's your choice." So you very rarely hear those stories that your parents are like upset that you don't have a specific sort of religious focus.
When my parents found out, so like I was like 12, and I made the decision to denounce religion in my life, and I was talking about it with my friend's mom, who lived around the corner. It was like a 7-minute walk from their house to my house, and in the time that it took for me to walk from their house back to my house, his mom had called my mom. I was like, did you know your son's an atheist? And all this shit. And I walked in the house.
How old were you?
12.
Awesome.
And my parents fucking went ballistic. I walked in the door and I was like, "Hey guys," and they're like, "What the fuck is your problem?" Dude, my mom. My mom was like, "You know what? Fuck you. You're not getting anything for Christmas." And I was like, "All right. I don't ask for anything anyway, but fair enough. I got shit for Christmas."
What a great way to demonstrate to someone that
Yeah, that's not the way to get someone to believe in
right. But the visceral reaction, right? The visceral reaction to it was exactly what I was looking for. That's what I wanted. So in a way, them freaking out over the fact that I was denouncing it was validation that I was doing the right thing for me.
Right.
I understand you.
British kids just rebel by taking loads of drugs. Usually, they don't really have a religious sort of sect to rebel against. Most.
I feel like mine might be a little bit healthier in the long run.
I think definitely physically.
Well, that's really interesting and something that I never thought about, because being from the States, I'm definitely aware of a certain intensity that American Christians have.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't. It's just not. It just doesn't exist.
Not present.
There.
Wow,
well,
that's interesting.
And I went to like a fairly religious school for a primary school for my country. I mean, and that wasn't. He just sung a hymn in the morning that he didn't understand, and then I think he did a prayer, and then that was it. You know, no one ever spoke about it again for the rest of the day.
All right, now that shit's done.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just like a side thing. And I think maybe it's because at one point in like history, we were massively religious. Obviously,
right.
The history of Britain is goes back ages, like culturally. So I do wonder if, like, over time, those sorts of things just get laxer and laxer, and because America is young. It was like, yeah, it's young. Like we need to talk about colonization. So those sorts of things are still, you know, pretty intense. Like as far as the culture is concerned.
Because when I was growing up, the most corrupted people, the people that were the least acceptant and the most vicious,
judgmental.
They're the most vicious in their judgment of others were always the people in my life that were the most religious.
Yeah.
And like it was really a friend of mine's older brother that kind of turned me to thinking for myself, because I was going along with it because I was made to go to church when I was a kid. And then one of my buddy's older brothers like slid me a book, and he's like, "Hey, you need to read that." And it was like The Origin of Species, and I was like, "Okay." Just reading Charles Darwin at like 12.
For the record, I believe in evolution.
Okay.
But yeah, but mate, like, by the way, what's on your t-shirt, Nick?
This one. Yeah. Well, this one isn't really religious in general. This is just a piece that Robert did. Robert's the guy who does the Leviathan artworks, but you know, it's like a
vampire chick, right?
Yeah, she's like, it's called Fallen, but it's like a demon chick with a sword through her. It just looks cool, to be honest with you. And that's another thing too, is to be quite frank, I just really like the aesthetic.
I understand. I'm not interested in arguing with you, Nick, because I completely understand. I completely understand. I completely understand the way you feel and the conclusion that you came to.
Yeah.
I had a different experience and a different journey because I'm still in the church, and I feel like I'm rebelling from within, you know, because I'm interested in the church being legitimate and authentic, and I hate the same people that you hate for the same reason. I'm reacting to it in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I think I really like the religious imagery in the show. I like the outfits. I like the way that the priests and stuff are dressed. You know, they look like Catholic priests that I would like to see killed by demons. So it's pretty neat.
Ben in the background. Good.
Yes. No, really. Like I'm eating popcorn and saying like, that's what you get. You get what you get.
It's interesting though, isn't it? The sort of symbolism that aesthetic carries with it. I do find it really, really interesting.
Like Spawn on top of a cathedral. That's like perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Great point. Yeah, and they do it with Daredevil as well.
Daredevil,
yeah.
I mean, I like the aesthetic that comes along with a lot of the religious stuff. Like when I was living in Europe, I would go to cathedrals because they were gorgeous and they're super fucking cool. Like whether or not I agree with what the establishment is like inside this building, we believe these things. Like that's kind of irrelevant, right?
What if the only reason we don't go to heaven is because we've watched too much Spawn?
Then we're fucked. then we're fucked, man.
You do everything else. You can live and die by the book. But
what year did Spawn come out? Like 92, 93? So everyone before 1993 got into
I'm not sure. If I went to hell and became like a sport, I wouldn't be able to pull off that big collar, man. I'm too short. I don't like Danny DeVito with a. It wouldn't fucking work. Look,
well,
you got to be like
you don't think hell
shoulders to carry off that giant collar.
Well, what about this, Max?
What's up, everybody?
Yo, I'm Spawn.
What if when you go to hell and you become a demon, you get taller? Would you go then?
Then I'm sound. Then I'm sorry up to hell. Yeah.
Yeah. You become a 7 foot tall demon. What's up? What?
This is just how I'm gonna wear this jacket from now on.
It's the look, man. Bring it on next week's fashion segment for sure.
Hey, what's up, you guys?
We're talking big collars.
in my red jacket, you know.
Devil chose him to be the sergeant of hell.
And I'm gonna wear like really big chains as well.
Yeah, Ben is a really lame new addition to the Spawn universe.
You just throw him and they just fall on the floor. Nothing happens.
They're like, imagine like a hell spawn with erectile dysfunction, and his chains are just always like floppy.
There's a pill for that.
It's going everywhere.
I like doing a short comic strip of that of somebody that has made themselves believe that they're a superhero, but they're not, and it just doesn't work out.
I would like that.
I like that.
How would they maintain the delusion, though?
Well,
good luck.
At the end, they'd have to, right? Because you put yourself into
he just one day happens to go like that, and a bus crashes, and
yeah.
I think that'd be more fun, like a Mr. Magoo thing, where everything just works out for him, despite.
Yeah, exactly. Like weird happenstance keeps occurring that makes him continue to believe that he's a superhero, but he's not.
It turns out he really does have a superpower, and he has like a really good guardian angel or something. I don't know. All right, here's my favorite fight scene from Castlevania.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That was smooth.
Yeah.
This metal is fun.
We couldn't have got to that fight scene sooner.
Well, you can fast forward, Arya. I'm sorry you watched the whole show if you didn't enjoy it. Never feel obligated to watch things if you're not feeling it.
I disagree, Arya. I think you need to watch the entirety of all the shows before you can even think about coming on our show.
Yeah. Okay.
I like it when things are on YouTube, because then you can watch them 2 times speed. And then I do that a lot.
Let's do that.
So the one really cool thing about that scene is like a lot of the fight is framed with the monster in the center of the screen, and the character almost like a video game sprite jumping along the outer portions of it. And as video games get into like the 3D world, like fighting bosses. Like PlayStation and N64 days, you run around them. So there's like this 3D area where the baddie, the boss is in the middle of the screen, and you're running around the exterior, and that's basically what that scene was.
Yeah, yeah. It was almost like a quick time little thing, wasn't it? Katie brings up a good point.
To like how it was back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's sawing his throat, how did he get his hands around his neck? Because his neck's like that.
I think he had the chain from the Morning Star around the neck and his arms wrapped around that. And so that was kind of like a jiu-jitsu, so unrealistic. Yeah, Katie, let me know what it's really like to fight a Minotaur. But he's using his two weapons, like the sword on the neck and then the chain around the sword to like choke the monster. It was really good. I liked it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The monster somehow strangely became very erect after that. Hold on, don't stop.
That's what it's all about.
Ben's not into asphyxiation as much as he is in the femdom, it seems.
Yeah, he's all about
Is Ben disappointed with all of us, or is he frozen?
He might be frozen. Or he's frozen. Judgment.
I think he's just disappointed.
Yeah.
He's abandoned us. So,
if he starts moving in a second, I'll die.
Did you guys know that since Twilight was so popular, Robert Pattinson actually started speaking to fans in an American accent?
I thought he was super heated at fans because they kept on like asking questions about Twilight. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and he answered them in an American accent apparently.
And those questions were, why is Twilight not very good?
Uh-oh.
Well, I'll tell you.
He might be a good Batman, though.
I cannot wait for that.
Well, you know how they just made Superman gay? Don't be surprised when they make Batman sparkle.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty pumped for Goth Batman.
Yeah, you reckon?
Batmobile door opens and there's like dry ice, and then
hi everyone.
Like his eye makeup is all glittery and shit.
Yeah. He just opens his cape and all the different Robins run out.
Oh my god! He's got like fucking
I feel
diva
like
level.
Imagine a Robin that is more heterosexual than Batman.
Oh god!
Here we go.
The
vessel of disappointment himself. Yeah.
Yeah, I had.
Anybody get a screenshot of that?
I'll get one in a bit.
Oh hell yeah!
Why? What happened? Did I
you
look
were
really
like,
funny?
yeah, because I made a joke about how like asphyxiation must not interest you as much as femdom, and your face was frozen in like that meme, just like
you were like that.
That's really
Like
funny.
you were super disappointed.
Yeah,
really funny.
I was like, it took me a second to realize you were frozen. I was like, man, Max really didn't, or he didn't. Fucking Ben didn't think that was funny at all.
Oh, that's amazing. You guys should know me better than that. I would never get mad about it.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, well, I guess that wasn't a good joke. I'll just be over here fucking myself. Anyway, vampires, am I right?
Sort of had a character for Ben to be so judgmental.
Judgmental Ben.
Sorry. That's amazing.
Is that your church face? Just disappointment? And everyone else?
The church face.
No, Nick. I'm changing it from the inside. I'm making it cool.
That's very SLC punk of you.
Yeah, actually.
Anybody else?
All right.
Nobody?
So,
Lost? All right.
I didn't. What's the line from SLC punk? I didn't sell out. I bought in.
Yeah, some shit like that.
Eh.
Yeah, that's a cop-out.
Did you, though?
So it looks like you just shaved your head.
Did you, though? Yeah.
Bought in.
I do like that movie, though.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And then there was also surprisingly funny scenes, like this one.
You killed that bastard thing. You get one free.
I love you. Oh my god. That is better than sex.
He's definitely a Brit.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
killed that bastard thing, you get a giant pint. It's not that big.
That's the only relationship in that show that I didn't find completely repulsive because it was just realistic and fun, and like everybody else is just like overly obsessed with being in love to a point that's just nauseating, honestly. And I understand that that's like the whole MacGuffin behind like Saint Germain and Dracula, but when they did the same thing with Alucard, and like Alucard lives happily ever after with his girlfriend at the end too, it's just like, all right, enough already, enough. Like fuck, it's too much.
There's got to be more
I think it's too much.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
They deserved it. And it was like a good send off for like everybody. You know?
Yeah, I get that, but I think it's dumb.
Yes, I see your point, and I raise you.
Ben passes judgment.
Yeah, exactly. And I raise you.
I'm really not a judgmental guy. By the way, your point is completely invalid.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, but fuck you.
Oh shit! Maybe I really am a judgmental cunt.
Oh
shit! No! Oh man! I gotta go home and rethink my whole life. But Max, what were you gonna say? Because there's some nuance, and you feel like you're conflicted.
It's a difficult one to sort of write, I imagine, because what they're trying to get across is that like Alucard's not a normal person, as he's been alive for hundreds of years without anybody, so he's like deeply lonely. So I suppose you would get like a bit emo about that after a while. Do you know what I mean? Because he sleeps with that brother and sister, doesn't he?
Which
like,
is really kinky. By the
yeah,
way.
sort of against his better will, and then he ends up like fucking him up. But so he's kind of pushed to do these things because he's like he's been alone for hundreds of years, not just for the same time as a human. Whereas Trevor just lives the same lifespan as a normal human, and he's got this relationship, but he fucks up like every other human. He doesn't seem as bothered about it as he should be, and he consistently like fucks it up. Whereas Alucard, to him, it's like something that's supremely important. That's all he wants, and that's why
it is so much easier to be evil.
Yeah, but finish the point, Max. Like, yeah, they have all this power, but ultimately they choose love, right?
Yeah. And that's why those two characters consistently like jostle, because they're basically the opposite sides of the same coin.
Right.
And,
but see, my take is like, if you were immortal and lived forever, I think you'd get to the point where you didn't care about relationships anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think relationships could last forever. Like, I feel like a person's lifespan, whatever it is, 70, 80 years, like that's about as long as being in love can hold up. If you lived for 500 years, you'd get fucking sick of whoever it was, wouldn't
That's
you?
very unromantic of you, Ben.
Well, I'm not a romantic person.
I don't know. I think about the immortal thing a lot, right? And I always think no one's really done it when. I think if you're alive long enough, you would completely forget your own origin, because as you get like I'm 40, right, and I already can't remember half the shit that I've done in my life. Like, I think when someone says to me, "Well, what were you doing when you were 26?" I don't fucking know. I've got no idea. Like, so if I was like,
you think I remember the 30s?
I can remember some of my 30s.
Jesus. No, I'm saying, do you think I can remember the 1930s? That's what you tell me.
Yeah. So imagine being like 300 years old.
Not your 30s, the 30s.
The 30s.
Yeah, you think Max remembers the Great Depression very well?
I mean, I was around. I just don't remember much about it. But like, if you were 300 years old, I'm not sure if the human brain is sort of built to retain that amount of information. Maybe
I don't know.
You wouldn't even know where you came from after a while.
I don't think that would really be the point, because although you don't necessarily remember everything that you've done, you're still all of your experience have accrued into who you are today.
Yeah,
the experiences that you experienced back then still have effect on who
this
you
is
become.
The conversation I wanted. Yeah, keep going.
But I feel like it would be mainly like instinct built into you as opposed to specific memories.
Well, that comic book I was talking about last week, Berserk, the one that Keanu Reeves co-wrote, touches on this subject specifically. So he's been around, the character, fuck, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's been around for 80,000 years.
Oh, right.
Right, and his whole existence, like all he does is fuck shit up. Like he has to kill.
Yeah, he's like a Wolverine.
Yeah, but in this the last issue that I read, the theme specifically was how he still had the urge to be in a relationship with somebody. He eventually stops, but it goes through like him and fucking Neanderthalic period relationships all the way like through the ages. Where like it shows like the frame of whoever he's with getting older and he stays the same. And ultimately it's one of his largest points of anguish is that he cannot just experience that as a normal person.
That's interesting how that.
Listen, I am not nice. I am not kind.
It's interesting how that's focused on a lot with the immortality sort of.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's an X-Files episode about it too. There's this guy. He's a photographer, and like he somehow was skipped over by death. Like death just like took somebody else's ticket instead of his, and never came back for him. So he had stayed alive for a long time. But his thing was he was like always taking pictures of the dead because he could see when they were going to die. In his eyes, they became like black and white. So whenever he was like, all right, that person's about to get it, and then they die, and then he takes a picture and he'd like sell it to newspapers or whatever.
Right.
But they talk about romance. He talks about this scene. There's a scene where him and Scully are in his apartment, and she's trying, being the logical person that she is and the scientific person that she is. She's like, there's got to be something to live for. And he's like, there's nothing to live for. I just want to die. And she's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you have immortality. Like, you could experience so many things. You could learn anything. Like, he's like, listen, lady.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, would you even have the stamina? Like,
well, I think you would have to pick one side or the other. You'd have to be like a fully invested romantic, or you'd have to be a complete stoic and dedicate yourself to something else. Because otherwise, you're just living in nothingness.
I think that stoicism is the only way to really have an eternal life that's gratifying.
You think?
Yeah.
I think that.
Well, the original Dracula spent thousands of years pining after the wife he lost, right?
Right.
So
yeah, but that's my point.
Yeah, you know, he could have gone to therapy at any one of those points.
Like, if someone should have just like mailed him, you know, Marcus Aurelius or something, and have him just fucking grow up, you know.
Well, I think that if you were to be immortal, like the point of your existence would have to change, because us as mortals, although we live for others, we ultimately live for ourselves. Like, love in itself is a selfish thing. So that's, everybody's chasing love. Everyone's chasing success. They want these things for themselves. But if you're living forever, you no longer have the time limit that's like, I'm going to run out of time. I have to experience these things. It doesn't matter for you anymore. Right. So the best thing to do would be to dedicate yourself to the greater of humanity.
Yeah, it's removing the meaning.
But there's a difference because a romantic love is directed towards one person.
Right, but you couldn't have that as an immortal. So you'd have to love humanity.
You'd have to love everyone.
Yeah,
because but that's, I think, the whole point. Because the problem with Dracula is that he loves this one person, and that's sort of an immature. Well, I shouldn't say that, because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being in love, and there's nothing wrong with having a relationship.
Yeah, but it has to be obsessive, doesn't it? Because if you're pining for someone for thousands of years, that has to be an obsessive personality disorder.
So, Ben, as Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, what life advice would you give Dracula?
Well, the problem with immortality is that the other person isn't immortal. So sure. So say that you're a vampire, and say that the Catholic Church murders your wife. Well, she was gonna die anyways. You have to think about that.
It's so fucked up.
You can't be in love with just one person if you're gonna live forever.
Now start crying. Now start crying.
As Jordan Peterson would say, romance is a young man's game.
It is.
That's a quote from him. But I mean,
and that's true. And what that means is that if you're gonna live that long, eventually you need to get to the point where you're not so invested in a romantic kind of love. You have to graduate to universal love for all of other of other people.
Or maybe
I have a theory though. What if he
Go
wasn't
ahead.
just loving he wasn't just loving her and the fact that she died, it's just not loving one person, it's more about loving oneself. After she was gone, he just couldn't love himself anymore because he let her die in his grand scheme of things. He could like literally teleport anywhere across the world. He could have saved her right then and there. He could have done anything in his power, and yet he just.
So you think it's like a survivor's guilt because he should have been powerful enough to save her?
Yeah, because nobody is powerful enough to bring somebody back to life or anything like that. Yeah, he could have, but like in the grand scheme of things, like he didn't. And I guess it was that reason why he was just, I want to destroy everything.
Yeah.
Remember,
he was disgusted with himself.
That makes sense because. Go ahead, Arya.
Well, in Castlevania, Dracula was sent to walk the earth as a man, wasn't he? To learn that humans were worthwhile, and then he comes back to find the humans have killed his wife, and that's what triggers him. So yeah, Josh is right.
Yeah, I think Josh, you make a good point, Josh, and that also makes sense with like why he gives in the end because I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, well,
now it happened to me too.
Well, I think it's also like an interesting metaphor for humans' desire to have love everlasting, but it ultimately becomes corrupted regardless of what you do.
For sure. Yeah. I think the lust for life is a young man's game as well. The older you get, the more you think about death.
Oh, that started dude, that was like 12 years old. I was like, come on,
positive, let's get I think you become more acceptant of it the older you get. So I do wonder if you were 1,000 years old, you'd just be longing to die.
Well, yes, that's a common thing, but like I think that because it's inevitable, you're like, Jesus Christ, like let's get this thing over with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you remove that piece, the I'm going to die piece, I don't know. I would like to believe that if I were immortal, I would do something productive with it. You know what I mean? Because like immortality is something that I think a lot about.
Why? That's like a pessimistic way of looking at it, right? Like the optimistic way would be you've got 70 years, do something now.
Do something now, yeah.
I'm
with Arya.
But that's also that touches like, so my therapist describes me as an existentialist with nihilistic tendencies. So yes, you have 70 years, but ultimately
that's how I always describe you.
Oh, thank you. That's everything you do in your life is ultimately futile, and everything you do in your life, nothing is actually for you, because the only thing you can do in your life is to leave something for the next generation. So it's this continuous cycle of nothing is ever really about you, ever.
But that's enough.
And that's why you shouldn't think about the future too much.
Right.
But that's
just
enough.
Live in the now a bit more.
like I had a near-death experience before I started writing Rokon, and that was kind of why I did, because I realized like if I died, I wouldn't have left anything behind.
Right.
Have you seen a?
I'm gonna write a book, and then when I'm dead, people can read my book, and then it'll be like then it'll be like
a sense of you living on through their inspiration in a way.
Right. Well, that's what I've come to realize, is that the only way to achieve immortality is to leave something that is everlasting, like a story.
Yeah, but I mean, traditionally that would have been your DNA, right? That's why you have, in the old times, you have loads of kids. That's the thing you preserve. Now we have, other things. Have you seen
a whole file of nudes? That's what I have.
Yeah. Have you seen the film?
A terabyte.
A terabyte of dick pics.
Have you seen the film Children of Men?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a scene in that where he goes to see one of his friends at the beginning, and like the premise of the film, for those who don't know, is women have stopped giving birth to babies. The youngest person in the world.
So typical.
Yeah. They can't for some reason. It's just one day it happened. There were no more.
All
babies.
the lesbians are getting taller and taller.
Yeah. They're all massive. All the massive vampire lesbians.
I hate it.
and wandering around wondering what happened.
So none of them are green. None of them have green skin.
The youngest person in the world is 18, and I think he dies in a terrorist attack. And he goes to see one of his mates to talk about this, and his mate's got all this art all the way around his office, and he says to his mate, like, why the fuck do you buy any of this stuff? Like, no one's going to see it. When you die, no one gives a shit. Like, it doesn't mean anything. And his response is, I just don't think about it. He just enjoys it for what it is at the time.
Yeah, I mean,
he's looking for the meaning now, as opposed to trying to stretch it over a period of time that he has no control over.
Absolutely, but I think that scene is a metaphor. Like, there's a duality in that. Both points are right.
For sure.
Right, like, but it's your choice to take whichever one you want. For me,
exactly.
it's a daily choice. Like, some days I'm in an existential crisis. Other days I'm like, fuck it, man, nothing matters. Like,
but it is a choice. So
yeah, absolutely.
So you consistently try and fall back on the one that makes you feel better about your life, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, there's at least a strain of pessimism in both of those things. Like, I just don't think about it. But saying you don't think about it does admit that you are aware that that is true.
Well, I mean, this could happen. You could produce all the artistic works that you dreamt that you could, and they become as popular as you dreamt that they could be. And you die on your deathbed a very happy man, because you know these things are going to last. Then there's a world war and everybody burns every single fucking piece of artwork you've ever created. And then it never spans to anywhere. No one ever sees it again. No one ever hears about it.
Well, it's not about whether it physically exists or not.
Like my point is the hope for that legacy is still destroyed, even though at the time when you were alive, you thought it existed.
But regardless of that nuclear holocaust or not, eventually in a long enough timeline, the entire Earth is going to be destroyed.
Exactly.
But I think it still mattered, even if one person consumed it. Like,
I think. Well, I
you
just
know what I
think
mean.
It matters. It matters to you at the time, which is why human brains aren't supposed to know the future, right? If you knew your entire existence from now to the day you die, it would fucking wreck your life. It would destroy your life completely.
There's an X-Files episode about that too.
Yeah.
I believe that if we
How about next week? Nick tells us his favorite X-Files episodes. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Josh is talking.
I was just about to say that I read in the Halo novels there was a idea of the primordials. It's relevant to what I'm about to say, to what we're just saying. They basically willed things into existence, and at that point where their race exists, like the Forerunners, for example. No, not the Forerunners, the Precursors. When they cease to exist, the ladder of their knowledge or everything that they learned up to that point was recovered through ascending. So, in a way, I do feel that the idea that we produce everything from art, literature, will come again only in the next generation that will discover it when it comes to them. I think the knowledge that we produce out in the universe comes back to them through inspiration. And when they do gain that, they will be like us living through them. So yeah, one might be gone in the future, but the work we produce now will be gone to them.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. And
There's
even
going to
if
be big titties forever.
Yeah.
even
You're welcome.
Even if the story is destroyed, Max, if someone read that story, or 100 people read that book, and even if there's no copies left of it, that marks them. And then one of those 100 will write another book, and it will have been influenced and changed by you. You know what I mean?
That doesn't just have to be a piece of articulated media. It could just be a conversation that you have with somebody, and the butterfly effect of that can travel forever, you know. So you're making legacies everywhere if you try. You just don't realize it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. For millions of years since the onset of time, all of your ancestors survived. What's that song by The Streets?
The Streets. He's a fucking brummer. He's not even from London.
He has that song about how it's like, you ever think about how like every single one of your parents had to have sex with every single one of your other parents, and how lucky you are to be alive and stuff? And it's like, that's why I never killed myself, dude. That's basically one of his songs. Those are the lyrics.
So anyway, Castlevania.
Right, vampires.
Every single person on your mom and dad's side successfully lived after and passed on to your life. What are the chances of that like? Anyways. That's The Streets.
All right.
I think we got particularly deep off this cartoon.
Join us next week where Ben sings us another song.
Yeah.
Questions.
Ben's going to sing while Arya combs his hair for an hour.
Every week, Arya shows off his clothes and Ben sings the song.
I'll give you a sneak peek of next week.
I knew that's awesome. I love that.
Action, mate.
I knew this conversation was going to get really heady and really philosophical. It took us a while, but we got there, and it was worth the wait.
I think we've done our time on this one. We've been doing 1:45.
So how much time did we actually clock in on Castlevania?
About 3 minutes.
At least 4.5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked for maybe 10 minutes about the topic.
Philosophical
but
views of Alucard, of Dracula. Yeah.
Yeah. Get the names in now. Should we just?
Yeah. Castlevania, Alucard, Dracula, chains, the church,
punchy,
demons,
fighty,
fiery beasts.
Barney, let's see. I forgot the rest of them, to be honest with you, because Barney is funny as fuck in those series. He knows what I'm talking about.
Something, existentialism, something. Live life today. Carpe diem, everybody.
Carpe diem.
It's all a bit of cheese on it.
Carpe diem. Yeah, but the show examines that question of what immortality would imply for a person on a spiritual, emotional, and interpersonal level. And I think we did a really good job of examining that and talking about how it impacts us as individuals. So well done, boys. Nice show. Let's talk about TLS in outer space.
Okay. I would really like it if everyone watching would head over to Indiegogo and search for TLS. That's tail-less. And back the campaign. It's in demand right now. One of the coolest books on Indiegogo. We've got comic books. We've got action figures. We've got stickers, patches, T-shirts. There's going to be something you enjoy in this. So if you're a fan of Saturday morning cartoons, like the stuff we talk about on the show, then you're going to love TLS.
Comic book.
I would also really like you to know that the chemistry between Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson was so obvious during their first meetup at director Catherine Hardwicke's house in Venice that they actually acted out a love scene on her bed.
Oh, wow. Thanks for that, Ari.
I think that's called fucking.
Okay.
They acted out a scene.
It was acting, Nick.
He acted putting his penis into her vagina.
He didn't really come inside her, everybody.
Oh, the pee and the boo boo and the boo boo boo.
It's just fake. Is it really? Does it taste real?
And I would like. It's not sex. It's acting. All right.
Ben, have you got a comic you want to push?
Ben, if I had a fucking dollar for every time somebody said that to me, I would have quite a few dollars.
Yeah. $7 to $8.
That's your own fault for being so damn handsome, Nick.
4.5.
You are
it's
a handsome
not
chap.
sex. Oh God, you can't. Thanks.
You're the handsomest one of all, and there's some stiff competition on this board. I might say.
Emphasis on the stiff.
You've got Aria here as well. Who's the goth handsome?
Yeah.
We've got traditional handsome and goth handsome.
Yeah, and then Max has got like that Jason Statham badass, thing going on, which really works for him.
I don't know. You should see Josh's biceps, man.
Oh God.
Show us your biceps, Josh.
I spied him. I spied him when he was standing up at first.
Look at that.
Yeah! He's got some wide shoulders on him.
Oh yeah.
So Max and I made a comic book. It's called Rokon. That's on Indiegogo. I put Taylist and I put Rokon, and I'll look for the Immortal Asadi. I would love it if you backed Rokon on Indiegogo and check that out. If you're into vampires getting killed in a creative way, we'll eventually get around to that. We've got a big story.
Yeah.
A long story.
And
this is just the first issue of it.
And time travel and demons. You can check out the Immortal Asadi. Issue 2 is in production right now. We're not on Indiegogo because we've already finished our campaign, but you can go on Instagram and find us under Tier 1 Comics. And,
but Immortal Asadi number 1 is still in demand, so you can still get your copy.
You can get it from me because I have a stack of them. I'll bring you one, Josh.
Tailless in Outer Space, Rokon, The Immortal Asadi, Dracula's a Bitch. See you next week.
Hang on.
Hanging.
Also, there's another show on this channel on Wednesdays, 3:30 EST, 7:30. No, is it? I don't know. 3:30 in America, 7:30 in Britain.
There's Lob and the Lob.
Exactly, yeah. It's called The Snob and the Slobs. It's me and a couple of other guys reviewing the shit movie of the week. Come and watch us talk shit.
So it's Mystery Science Theater 3001.
For horror movies.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That's right up your alley, Nick.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
We did Lady Terminator on the other day, but it's got copyright struck, so...
Tune in next week.
I enjoyed that one.
Oh, nice one, dude. Cheers.
It's a great show. I like it a lot.
Josh,
Tune in next week.
You want to plug?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm down.
You want to plug anything, Josh?
Plug anything?
Like,
Yeah.
do you have a comic book that you want to sell or
any artwork that you want to show?
For right now, I'm just working on. I'm just a freelance artist right now, and the one project that I'm working on is called Project Blossom. It's still in production, so if you want to check that out, just hit me up on Instagram.
Cool.
Wicked.
Cool.
Thanks a lot for coming on, Josh. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah,
Thanks,
nice to
I
meet you,
appreciate
man.
it.
Next week, we're going to talk about who's the cooler surfer, the Silver Surfer or Static Shock. Same SMC time, same SMC channel. Peace.
As we've just seen, drugs make your problems go away. So make it the best day possible. Remember, it's drugs that counts. Take one and take a chance.
Saturday morning cartoons.